Okay, good morning everybody, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Thursday morning as we are studying together this week a doubleheader, Perashat Aharemot and Perashat Kedoshim. And we have one of the most famous Pesukim in the entire Torah in this week's Perashah. Every Goy, every Jew, Reform, Conservative, does not matter. It's actually written in big on the temple that we have right near our synagogue, and that is the pasuk Ve'ahavta lere'acha kamocha, which we translate loosely, love thy neighbor like thyself. Okay, this is a nice mitzvah. It's a beautiful pasuk to love your neighbor like yourself. Your neighbor is not literally neighbor. Re'acha means your friend. It means, anyone out there, to love everyone and anyone kamocha. Now, of course, Rabbi Akiva comes right along, wasting no time, and he says, Ze klal gadol batorah. This is a big rule in our Torah. And the question of the year we're going to discuss today is, what in the world is the mitzvah of loving? How do we define it? It sounds nice. It sounds like beautiful, love people, but let's give it practicality. Okay? The goal that we should walk away today, understanding how to fulfill the mitzvah of loving. Are you supposed to go around hugging every person you see? Right? I love people, right? People that love trees, they go around hugging trees all day. So is that what the Torah wants us to do? Just go around hugging, Corona aside, hugging people? What's the mitzvah of love others like yourself? To who, when, how, what, why, all of the questions. Hopefully we'll discuss some of them today. Of course, the pasuk is so deep and so rich, like every pasuk, and we're definitely not going to be able to touch on every part of it, but God willing, we'll try to walk away with a little bit more insight into what this very nice mitzvah is. Because again, Rabbi Akiva says this is a very big, important pasuk. Ze klal gadol batorah. And so let's begin. It's only 3 words, by the way. Ve'ahavta lere'acha kamocha. So let's go one word at a time, yeah? Ve'ahavta. What does that mean? What does ve'ahavta mean? Ahava comes from the word, right? Ahavta means to love. What does that look like, to love? Well, the Rambam writes, so if you have a Rambam, please open it up, to the laws of Avel. Where does the Rambam discuss the laws of Avel? He discusses them in his Mishneh Torah in the book of Shoftim. The laws of Avelut, someone mourning. The Rambam writes, chapter 14, halacha 1. Mitzvat aseh shel divrehim. There is a mitzvah from the rabbis. Lebakir holim. To visit the sick. Someone's sick, and you visit them, you just did a mitzvah. Nechem avelim. Someone's, God forbid, sitting Shiva. You visit them, you just did a mitzvah. Lehotzi amet, you help with the expenses, either financially or physically, helping bury somebody. That's a mitzvah. Lehachnis kala, someone's trying to get married, they can't afford it, you help pay for that wedding. That's a big mitzvah. Lelavot haorchim, you walk somebody out of town or out of your house, you escort them. You help people with the burial. He gives examples. Or the opposite. We're reading it, we got to read it right. If you dance for a bride and groom to help feed them for the wedding. These are examples of gemilut chasadim with your body. Right? Meaning, there's tzedakah and chesed with my money, and then there's chesed with myself. Chesed with my money is very easy. I pull out a checkbook, I take out my credit card, I send a Venmo, Quick Pay, PayPal, whatever it is, I send the money, beautiful. And that's very nice. But we also have to be involved with our body when it comes to helping. Not enough to just write a check, for $10 million a year. You still need to do chesed with yourself. And these are all big mitzvot. Now, what is the source over here that I have to now go visit someone who's sick? Who said? Where does it say that? Where does it say that I gotta help somebody who's sick? That I gotta dance for a chatan and kala? So the Rambam says, all these fall under the category of ve'ahavta lere'acha kamocha. Love someone else as yourself. Kol hadevarim, meaning, says the Rambam, listen to this one sentence, very important. Everything that you want, kol hadvarim she'ata rotzeh she'ya'asu otam lecha acherim, whatever you want that other people should do to you, aseh ata otan le'ahicha batara b'mitzvot. You would want someone to visit you when you're sick? If you were lonely in the hospital, wouldn't you want guests? Wouldn't you care that someone should come into your room and say, hey, I noticed you're not feeling well. I don't really know you so much, but I just noticed a Jew over here not feeling well. I figured you were lonely. Wouldn't we like that? Wouldn't that be nice if someone saw us in the street a little bit sad and said, hey, you look down today? Something on your mind? We would like people to notice if you had a bad day, right? We would like people to notice if we're not feeling well. We would like people to dance for us at our wedding. Right? It's nice to have a lot of people at your wedding. Whatever you want people to do to you, aseh ata otan le'ahich betorah u'mitzvot. Says the Rambam, whatever you want others to do for you, you do for them. And the Rambam over here seems to be saying that the mitzvah of ve'ahavta is actually not just to love in your heart. It's not an emotional mitzvah. It's a practical mitzvah to actually do something. Ve'ahavta doesn't mean to walk around saying, I love everyone. We don't care if you love them in your heart. We want you to go and visit them. We want you to help them. We want you to help bury someone if they're dead. We want you to help visit someone if they're sick. We want you to go dance for Chatan. Right? We want you to do things. That's what ve'ahavta means. It sounds like, by the way, echoing the famous story in Masechet Shabbat, where the non-Jew comes to convert. He says to the rabbi, Shammai, convert me, rabbi, on one leg. That sounds very disrespectful. What do you mean, convert you on one leg? Conversion is a process. It's a year. Go through the cycle. See what it is to live a year like a Jew. What is holidays? Go through Tisha B'Av. You sure? You don't want to shower for a whole week? It's not so comfortable. Right? We make him go through the process. And then, after a year, we test them a little bit. On basic. On one leg, you want to convert? What is this? 5-minute rabbinical order? Right? What is it? We don't do that here. Get out of here. It's very disrespectful. He goes to Hillel. Hillel is a smart rabbi. And so was Shammai, of course. But Hillel was a little bit, maybe more on the patient side. And Hillel says to him, no problem. I'll teach you the whole Torah on one leg. Tesani lach lahaverach la ta'abed. Whatever you don't want to be done to you, don't do to other people. Right? That's exactly what Hillel tells him. And it sounds like that is the Rambam's codification of the mitzvah of ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. It sounds like the Rambam is saying that what is ve'ahavta? What does it mean to love? Not just, in the heart. Loving people is actually doing for people. It's getting off of our chairs, getting out of our comfortable homes. Someone needs a hand. Someone is stuck out on the street. They need help with their car. They need to get up and do something about it. That is ve'ahavta. Now, this definitely is not what we would have thought 5 minutes ago. The plain meaning of the verse is very clear. The verse is very clear that it's talking about emotional. Actually, if we look in the Rambam, in another halacha so open up, we just read the Rambam in the laws of mourning. If we open the Rambam, laws of, let's open it up, halachot de'ot, human dispositions. The Rambam writes in chapter 6, let's go to chapter 6, halacha 3. Look at this. Mitzvah al kol adam le'ehov. The Rambam writes, there is a mitzvah to actually love. So here the Rambam is taking the pasuk literally. There's a mitzvah to love in my heart. Et kol ehad ve'ehad me Yisrael. Kegufo, like yourself. Shene'emar ve'ahavta lere'acha kamocha. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So the Rambam over here is writing very clearly, there's a mitzvah of love in the heart. Simple emotion. There's a mitzvah to have emotions for other Jews. Is that a contradiction to what the Rambam wrote in the laws of mourning? That the mitzvah is to do for people? Of course, the answer is no. There's no contradiction. The Rambam is simply saying that the term emotion is not enough. It cannot remain abstract. Yes, there is a mitzvah to love in the heart, but that needs to become concrete, that needs to be given clothing. And what do the clothing look like? Dancing for Chatan and Kala, helping someone who is sick, escorting people. And by the way, the Rambam continues and says this in the Laws of Human Dispositions, chapter 6. Lefichach, and therefore, tzarich lesaper b'shibho. We need to only speak the praise of people. Velahus al mamono, we should be careful with people's money. Kasher hu has al mamon atzmo, just like you're careful with your own money. If you saw your own electric scooter outside and it started raining, wouldn't you run in, bring it in so it doesn't get ruined? Yeah? If you saw your phone on the edge of a pool, wouldn't you push it away so it doesn't get ruined, it doesn't fall in by mistake? Well, if you're at a pool party and you see someone's phone on the edge, you shouldn't say, oh, what do I care? It's not my phone. Ve'ahavta. The same way you would care about your own money, we need to care about someone else's money. We need to pick up the phone. We got to put it on the side. We got to knock on the door. Do you know that your scooter is outside? You know that, now again, maybe the guy has a waterproof electric scooter and he's going to get annoyed at you that you are ringing his bell. And of course, we always have to use discretion. We always have to use the sixth sense called sechel. We have to use our heads and our brains. But bottom line, the mitzvah is, the Rambam says it here. You want people to, you care about your money. You care about your honor. You don't like it if people embarrass you. Don't embarrass people. You want people to praise you? Praise people. You always care about your own dignity. You're careful. So be sensitive to other people's dignity. Right? That's ve'ahavta lere'acha kamocha. And the Rambam ends off. But whoever glorifies himself in disgracing his neighbor, if you embarrass people, if you put down people, and you glorify yourself through that, en lo chelek le'olam haba, the Rambam writes, that person has no share in the world to come. And that's a very serious statement. The Rambam here is telling us loud and clear how we have to be so careful about other people's money, other people's possessions, other people's dignity, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that is the term, that's what it means to love. To love doesn't just mean to say you love or to have a big bleeding heart. A bleeding heart looks like something. It looks like actually doing something. If you say all day long, I'm such a good person, I have such a good heart, and I love people. Okay, how many hours of your day do you spend helping people? How many times a week do you go visit people that are sick? How many times a week do we spend encouraging? How many times a week do we, right? If the answer is close to zero, our good heart is also worth zero. A good heart is worthless if it doesn't also involve good deeds. That's what the Rambam is saying first right off the bat. Okay. The next word. Le're'acha. Okay, to love my re'acha. The question is, the Ramban asks this question, how can the Torah expect us to love other people equally that I love myself? Is that humanly possible? Does the Torah really want me? By the way, halachically we know it's not even true. I'll prove to you it's not true. Can I bring you a proof? I hope I'm not like... Okay. This is a halakha. Halakha says, if you're in the desert, what's the halakha if someone's in the desert and there's only one jug of water and there's two people? Who drinks the water? Who drinks the water? So that's actually machloket. This is a case brought down in Gemara Masechet Baba Metzia, page 62, Samech Bet. Says Ben Petura, split it. Two people, you split the water. You take half, you take half. Even though it means you'll both die and you won't get out of the desert, doesn't matter. Split it. Okay. Rabbi Akiva says, Vehei ahicha emach. Rabbi Akiva says, your brother lives with you. But that means with you, he is secondary to you. Hayecha kodmin. Your life takes precedence over their life. And that's what they tell you every time you're on a plane. When they give you the entire security measures. And they say, if there's, God forbid, an accident, first put your own mask. Right? And then first help yourself. And then help other people. And that's what Rabbi Akiva says. And by the way, that's the same Rabbi Akiva that says, Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. This is the most important rule in the whole Torah. So how could the author of love your neighbor like yourself, which means like myself, equal to me, say also, but if there's only one water, give yourself first? Whoa, I thought we're equal. I thought he's like me, so we're the same. So why should I treat myself with water before I help him? It doesn't make sense. Not only that, but we know that there was two people in the Torah that reached this level of having love for each other, literally like they love themselves. Could someone please take a guess? Who am I referring to? The classic, quintessential friendship of love, unattached to any strings, selfless, beautiful. I saw it being lip said, and I also see it being written on the side by a lot of people. David and Yonatan, or Yehonatan, if you want to be more precise. But David and Yonatan, Shaul HaMelech, King Saul, the first king of Israel. He had a son, his name was Yonatan. And Yonatan was next in line to be the king. However, because of Shaul's sin, that he didn't wipe out Amalek, he lost the kingship. And he was told this by the prophet Shemuel HaNavi. And who became the king after Shaul? King David. So there was a point in David's life that he was technically the king, but not practically. He was anointed, but not recognized yet. Everyone was still with Shaul. And Shaul was very jealous of David. He wanted to kill him. And Yonatan, this is also his title. He's next in line to be king. And yet Yonatan, his love for David was so sincere. Even though he knew it meant losing the Malchut, the kingship. That's the love that he had for each other. So David and Yonatan, and the Gemara, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, as an example, the classic example, the Gemara Mishnah says in Pirkei Avot, any love that's based on something physical, once that physical thing goes away, the love is gone. If you're marrying somebody because they look nice, because of their looks, if you're marrying somebody because of their money, if you're marrying somebody because of their social status, if you're marrying somebody because they're going to give you a good time, that's the source of your love, that marriage is not going to last very long. And even if it ends up staying a marriage, it's going to be a disaster. Because that love is based on something that is temporary. Looks don't stay forever. Money is not around forever. Someone else has more of it. Right? And ahava, that's not based on anything physical. That love will last. It's eternal. And what's the classic example? The Mishnah says, who is such a love? Who had such a love for each other? David and Yonatan. They had such a love. And who's the one that loved for physical? Amnon and Tamar. He was so deeply, he so deeply needed to be physically with her. She was so beautiful. And he loved her. He was so in love with her. You think you're in love? He was so in love with her, he physically was sick in bed. But of course, the second he had his way with her, it was gone. The love went away. He was not only not in love anymore, he was disgusted. He kicked her out of his house. This is Amnon and Tamar. That's a love. That's not real love. That's infatuation. That's lust. Ahava, David and Yonatan. Now, the Ramban, to just finish off his question, he says, so if David and Yonatan reach this level, and it's level that's so praiseworthy, clearly it's not a level that's expected of everybody. So how could the Torah write as one of the 613 mitzvot that we're all expected to love each other like David and Yonatan? But we know it's not true. They were unique. They were an exception. That's not at the level that the Torah demands of us. So what's going on over here? Says the Ramban, it doesn't say ve'ahavta et re'acha kamocha. It doesn't say love him like you love yourself. Of course, you come first. When it says about God, it says ve'ahavta et. Et is the, towards. Love him. But when it comes to your friend, your neighbor, it doesn't say love him. It says le, towards, for. It doesn't say love them so much as it says love to them. Now what's the difference? I want you to think for a minute. What's the difference between loving them and loving to them? And the answer is, to is a way of acting. Again, going back to what the Rambam says, whatever you wish to and for yourself, you should wish for other people. Of course, the Torah never expected us to love them the same way I love myself. It's impossible. But I should love to them the way I love to myself. The way I want to be treated. I should act towards them. From inyan to inyan, going to the next word, kamocha. Again, as opposed to David and Yonatan, it doesn't say he loved him kamocha. Anyone know what it does say? He loved him, not kamocha. What's the word over there? Anybody know? By David and Yonatan. It says, Vaye'ehavehu Yehonatan. Jonathan loved him kenafsho. It says kenafsho, like his own soul. It does not say ve'ahavta lereacha kenafshecha. There is no mitzvah to love someone like your own soul. It's a nice thing, and Yonatan reached that level. What's the difference between nafsho and kamocha? So the Ramban again says, you have shortcomings. Are you perfect? No. We're not perfect, but we judge ourselves favorably. And we wish blessings upon ourselves, even though we have our shortcomings. So too other people. It shouldn't matter if it's us or someone else. There should be no discrepancy. The same way, even though we have flaws, we're very quick to push them aside and say, no, but overall I'm a good person. Overall I'm a good person. I make mistakes, but overall I'm trying. That's what kamocha means. Give other people the same definition. The same way you treat yourself. The same way we like people to act with us. There's a very fascinating Chizkuni I just want to share with you also. And the Chizkuni says, actually, you know what that means? You should love your friend the way yourself. Not the way you love yourself, but the way you want other people to love you. What do you expect? What would you like for other people? How would we like other people to treat us? Says the Chizkuni, just like we would want other people to treat us, we would want other people to act with us, that's how we should act with other people. Okay, anyways, we move on to one interesting question. And that is as follows. The pasuk says, right? Anyone know how that pasuk begins? Anyone know the beginning of the pasuk? Let's open it up. And the pasuk actually begins with a commandment. The pasuk says, and this is going to be found in Vayikra chapter 19, verse 18. The pasuk begins actually, Lo tikom velo titor et bnei amecha. Pasuk begins. The most famous pasuk actually has a beginning to it. And the beginning says, do not take revenge. Do not bear a grudge against your countrymen. Love your fellow as yourself. And this is actually something that I'm sure we all struggle with. There are people that hurt us. There are people that we are upset at. They did something negative to us. We have anger. We bear a grudge. Torah says, don't bear a grudge. Love your fellow as yourself. And the question is, it's simply a progression. Don't bear a grudge. Don't do bad things to people. Actually, do good things to people. So don't do bad, and also you need to do good. But there is a deeper idea over here. If we open the Rambam, going back to the Rambam, the laws of human disposition, chapter 7 now, Halacha 7. Go to chapter 7. It's towards the end. The Rambam writes, Hanokim mehavero, one who takes revenge, over belo ta'aseh, transgresses a commandment from the Torah. Okay. Afapisha enol okay, and even though we don't give the guy lashes for violating it, de'a ra'a hi. It is evil tendency. Very, very bad. Ela, rather, says the Rambam. You ready for this? Please follow along. If you have a Rambam. Chapter 7, Halacha 7 of human disposition. Halachot te'ot. Ra'ui lo le'adam liyot ma'avir al midotav al kol divrei ha'olam. Wow. It becomes man to be indulgent in his ethical conduct in all temporal matters. In anything that comes to this world. Shehakol etzel ha'mevinim divrei hevel vehavai ve'enan kedai linkom alehem. The Rambam is saying that we should forgive people and we shouldn't take revenge on what people are doing to us. Because in matters of this world, they're insignificant. We shouldn't let it bother us that they scratched our car, that they hurt our home, that they did X and Y and Z to me for a party. It's something so silly, something so small. What the Rambam over here is saying, he's giving us a strategy on how to overcome taking revenge. How do I overcome revenge, Rabbi? How do I work on it? How does one work on their revenge? You know what's the answer? The way we work on revenge, the Rambam says, is not by just refining your character. It's not just by working on yourself. The Rambam says it's by developing a hashkafa, a worldview, a philosophy, that things in this world don't matter. Right? If someone, dirtied your lawn, someone threw something on your front lawn, would it matter to you so much? It's my front lawn. Maybe it would bother you. What if it was your lawn all the way in your summer home and it was the winter? It wouldn't matter, right? Because it's my summer home. Fine. When things are important, someone dirties my clothing. If it's cheap, it doesn't matter. I don't bear a grudge. They dirtied it and it was an expensive piece of clothing. I hold a grudge, right? So the Rambam says that's the problem. Your problem is that you're valuing clothing. Because if we didn't value it, it wouldn't really bother us. We have to develop such a value system that we no longer care on worldly things. temporal things shouldn't excite us. Okay, it's just money. What's money? Money is not so important. When money is a person's world, and they wake up and the first thing they do is they look at their portfolio, and they go to work all day, they're thinking about the order, the business, the emails, and they go to sleep and they're going to sleep, falling asleep, watching their emails, seeing if anyone answered or orders or this or that. They eat, they breathe, they sleep, money, money, money. So your whole life revolves around money. So of course, when someone damages our money, we're going to be very hurt about it. But that's the problem. The problem is why do we even care? The Rambam says we should get to the level that this world is kind of not so significant. And if that's the case, then it won't bother us. Right? The problem is the downside of that. It could lead a person to say, well, if this world is meaningless, then the people that occupy this world are also meaningless. The con of thinking like that is that it could lead one to say, so you know what? If things are meaningless and this world is zero, so then you're also zero. And therefore, you're nothing. And then it could backfire, and we could start treating people like zero, because this world is zero. I'll treat Hashem, I'll treat mitzvot, but anything in this world is all meaningless. And including you people. That's what one can think, mistakenly. And so that's the pasuk's continuation. And by the way, love your neighbor like you love yourself. Meaning, don't bear a grudge. When it comes to mundane, earthly matters, they are insignificant. But people are not insignificant. People are not dispensable. People are very important. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Very powerful. So it's kind of giving us two sides of the same coin and making sure that we equalize, not to take the first half to an extreme and to apply it towards people. And maybe, by the way, this explains why Rabbi Akiva, we're mourning, right? As you can see, we're growing a beard. This is not a fashion statement. The reason I am growing a beard is because that's the rules of the Omer, right? We don't get a haircut. We don't shave. Some people have leniencies when it comes to shaving. Different communities. Consult your LOR, your local Orthodox rabbi. But in general, it's a time of mourning. We don't have weddings. We don't listen to music, right? And the reason is because in these 5 weeks, till the 33rd of the Omer, Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 students died. That's a crazy number. 24,000. And the Gemara wants to know, why? Why did they die? What did they do wrong? The Gemara says, Lo nahagu kavod ze lazeh. They didn't respect each other. Could it be Rabbi Akiva's students not respecting each other? Such a big rabbi? If your rabbi is Rabbi Akiva, how could you disrespect people? But maybe the answer is because they were following the first half of the pasuk so much. The first half says, don't bear a grudge. Let it go. Why should I let it go? Let it go because this world is worth zero. So if this world is meaningless, then you're meaningless. And the people in the world don't deserve my respect. The world and everything in it, no need to respect it. And that's why they didn't respect each other. And therefore, Rabbi Akiva comes and says, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Ze klal gadol b'Torah. The second half of the pasuk is very important. Don't forget about the second half. Don't get carried away with the first half of the pasuk. No. Ze klal gadol b'Torah. This is an important principle. One of the Hasidic masters used to say, Ze klal gadol. This is a big rule, it's a big principle, but Torah, unfortunately, it remained in the Torah for Rabbi Akiva's students. They never took it and extracted it and applied it to their lives. It remained an idea, it remained a concept. Like George Foot Moore said, what's the difference between philosophy and religion? The difference between philosophy and religion is that religion does something about it. Philosophy is ideas and beautiful, but they remain ideas. And many times you'll see people that discuss ethics and ideas and values that they are the most unethical. Right? They do sometimes the least acts of kindness, and they're discussing all day long about love and ideas, because when something's an idea and it remains an idea, that's very dangerous. So this says one of the Hasidic masters, Ze klal gadol b'Torah. It was a big rule, but it remained in the Torah. It remained an idea. It remained a principle. It never became part of their life. Says it by Bernstein, one last thought, and we'll stop over here. And if we may ask, why did it remain in the Torah? Why was it never internalized? And the answer is because Ze klal gadol. Because it was such an important rule. It was such a big idea. Wow. That's huge. Love your neighbor like yourself. That's big. And unfortunately in life, sometimes when the idea is big, we think that it only needs to be used and can be used in a big circumstance. It's only a great cause that warrants the usage of such a pasuk. I'm not going to waste this pasuk on small, ordinary, day-to-day events. No. I'm going to use this pasuk on a very big deal. I'm going to wait for someone who's dying. I'm going to wait for someone who needs a job. I'm going to wait for someone who's looking to get married, and they're all these things. Excuse me. No. I'm not going to use this pasuk for small things. This is too big a pasuk to waste on you, on a small, insignificant. And we have to realize, Rabotai, we have to remember, we live in small events. Life is not made up of big, important decisions. Life is not made of big things, big moments. We don't live in big moments. Life is all about a bunch of tiny little things. A smile, a hello, a phone call. Well, that's life. Rabbi Akiva's students, you know what their problem was? They waited to use this rule because it was a klal gadol. They waited for a gadol moment. And you know what ended up happening? The gadol moment never came. They waited and waited and waited. And they ended up being wanting. They ended up being guilty of never applying such a big pasuk because they were waiting their whole lives for such a big deal to come their way. And it never came. And therefore, we have to remember that the ahavta, as beautiful as the pasuk is, and it can be on every temple, and it can be in every house, and on every picture frame, and the background of our phones, and it can be a beautiful idea and a quote. But if we're going to wait for the big moments to apply it, we may be like Rabbi Akiva's students that will never end up using it. The way we work on ve'ahavta is by the smallest people around us, by the smallest circumstance around us. This is not going to be applied when someone needs $100,000 and someone needs a huge kidney and someone needs help. They're finding a job and someone is dying. That's not us. That's not life. It's tiny. It's a $5. That's how it begins. $5. It begins with 10 minutes that we give to somebody in the street. It's so amazing that sometimes in life we're so easily ready to run and help people with our time and our efforts, and we'll give a whole day for a certain cause, for a big cause. But we don't have 5 minutes for a small cause. We need to remember that we don't live in big moments. We live in day-to-day moments. And that's what greatness is. The way to measure great people is how they treated the little people. Ze klal gadol. It's a big rule. But make sure it doesn't remain in the Torah. And the way we make sure it doesn't remain in the Torah is by making sure we apply it not only to big people, but to every people, to small people. We'll stop over here for today, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we should merit to internalize, to apply this very powerful pasuk every day of our lives. Have a wonderful day.